Almost 2 years ago, I tried using AI for texture creation. The results weren't bad, but the process required several steps, and some surfaces couldn't be created at all. Recently, however, Substance Sampler released a new update that promises to streamline the process. We can now create AI textures right within Sampler. How good is it though? Let's find out. Even though the feature is still in beta, Adobe is confident enough to give it a prominent placement in its interface. Once we click the AI button, we get the typical text box interface. We type in our prompt, and a few seconds later we get back 4 options to choose from. The nice thing here is the fact that we can choose between texture or pattern creation. We'll go through the pattern option later on, but for now let's stick with texture. One of the first things I attempted was creating a wooden surface. Back then this was quite tricky to do with Midjourney and DALL-E, so I wanted to see how well Sampler's AI would perform. I was pleasantly surprised with the results. Sampler created some solid options to choose from. This is night and day compared to 2 years ago. To create the material, I didn't have to adjust the surface that much. As you can see, I only have one more layer on top of the AI texture, and that's pretty much it. That layer controls the roughness of the material. The material's properties are controlled on another layer that sits on top of the AI image. There we have some effects categories we can choose from, and each one of them has further settings to adjust. Sampler defaults to ground, but in most cases it's the wrong option. You need to go through some of these categories to find the one that fits best. After a while though, you'll get the hang of it, and instinctively you'll know which option is better. But in this case, it was very easy to choose. There's a wood category that tunes the texture quite well. Depending on the surface, you will have to adjust the micro, medium, and large details. This wooden surface doesn't have a lot of variance in height, so I used very low geometry detail values. I'm very happy with how this wooden surface turned out, but there's something you need to be aware of when it comes to material generation with Sampler. The main problem with the software has to do with how it generates the extra channels, normal, height, AO, etc. Sampler uses an image to material layer that is also an AI algorithm, and this algorithm can get confused quite easily. Let me show you what I mean. Let's switch to the 3D and 2D view, go to the AO channel, and let's crank the ambient occlusion strength all the way to 1. Notice what happens. For some reason, we get these rectangular blocks. It's very easy to see it on the AO channel, but we can also see it on the 3D view as well. This effect just ruins everything. We can hide the issue by toning down the AO strength, but we can't get rid of it. And this is not the only type of artifact we can get with the image to material layer. We can also get a very specific noisy pattern when the AI tries to enhance details out of an image. And I can show you that with the next wooden material I've experimented with. This comes from a prompt asking for a weathered dark oak. The result is very good. Adobe's AI is probably very well trained when it comes to wooden surfaces. This material has several more layers in order to get the look I was after, but the starting point was great. Now let me show you the artifacts I was talking about. Let's disable all other layers and let's go to the roughness channel. I don't know how easy it will be to see the issue with YouTube's compression, but it's very clear on my screen. Notice the areas where we have these clean and sharp details that are interrupted with blocks of blurry details. They're just all over the texture. It's also visible on the normal channel, but on the roughness map it's super easy to tell. And of course it's visible in the 3D view as well. Let me turn down the geometry details so it's a little bit easier to see. And let's zoom in a little bit closer. You can see these constant changes between blurry and sharp details. It's very messy looking. Of course, you could say that no one would zoom in this close to the material, and that's true, but at the same time, I just wish the result would have been better. I think what we're seeing here is buggy behavior. It's been there for months though, so I'm not sure if there are any plans to fix this. Despite that though, I was very pleased with how the wooden surfaces turned out. They're not perfect, but they're very good overall. Let me quickly show you another wooden surface that, even though looks good, has some AI issues. Notice how the wood grain flows in this area. It's definitely not natural looking, but again, it's not something anyone would notice, especially if you have several objects on top of this surface. Let's now go through some other materials, and let's first start with this marble material. While it kinda looks like marble, it's not exactly right. I've added a couple more details to try and finesse it a little bit, but it's just not there yet. I did have a better luck though with more abstract type of surfaces like rocks and concrete. Let's go with the rocks material first. This one has several more layers to enhance the effect, but I love the fact that creating a surface like this is quite easy to do. This is where using AI can be beneficial. We now have a very easy and fast way to generate custom materials that fit our scene without having to spend hours going through huge libraries of materials and testing them out. Let me now show you the concrete material. This one is infinitely better than what I could get from Midjourney or DALL-E back in 2022. Like before, it has several layers to fix some issues and enhance the overall effect, but without a good starting point, I wouldn't be able to get there, which is one of the reasons I like working with Sampler. Along with the AI generation, it also has a ton of other tools that help us quickly and easily get a material out of a single photo, or in this case, an AI image. Let me show you now a set of textures where Sampler's AI failed miserably. AI is not always going to work, so I think it's important to show you the failures too. This is supposed to be floor tiles. It's the best result I could get from this prompt, but as you can see, it's just plain terrible. For some reason, Sampler struggled with this prompt really bad. As you can see, most of the images have some perspective on them. First off, we definitely don't want that. We want a top-down view to get a good material out of it. But what's interesting to note here is that Midjourney and DALL-E had the exact same issue. Are floor tiles AI's new nemesis like hands were a few years ago? From what I'm seeing, probably yes. Thankfully though, Sampler's regular features can help with that. We can use a regular floor tile filter and adjust its settings without having to worry about the type of pattern the AI will create. And of course, we can just create our own in Photoshop or Illustrator. This is a good reminder to avoid relying too much on the new shiny AI features. Sometimes it's just faster to create the material the regular traditional way. Overall though, I'm happy with the type of results I got out of Sampler's AI textures. With some modifications, we can get some nice looking results out of them. Now, let's switch things up and let's have a look at Sampler's pattern option. Midjourney is great at creating patterns and was great even back then in 2022 when I made the original video. So let's see how well Sampler fares. I first tried out a floral pattern, and it looks like Sampler creates very simple designs compared to Midjourney. I'm not against that at all, but even this simple design has its flaws. Notice the petal of one of the flowers. It has a different color than the rest, which is clearly an error. But we need something more intricate than that. By tweaking the prompt, I managed to get some better designs, but they're not amazingly good. Upon closer inspection, the images have quite a few issues. It's the typical mistakes we see when an AI is not thoroughly trained. Some are better than others, but even the ones that look fine have glitches and artifacts throughout the image. This is the point where I would say you either go with your own designs, or if you want to save time, you can grab the ones the AI made and redo them entirely in Illustrator. But aside from that, no matter how much I tweaked the prompt, I couldn't get Midjourney's intricate designs from Substance Sampler. Maybe Sampler is doing that on purpose, so it's easier to use these images with the embroidery effect. No matter the reason though, if you want elaborate patterns and you don't want to create them yourself, Midjourney is the way to go. Sampler is better with regular texture requests. It's not there yet when it comes to patterns. Overall though, it's very impressive what Sampler AI can do. I can see it being a huge time saver, especially when your project doesn't require materials with very strict requirements. For example, when you need a good-looking wooden surface that doesn't have to be 100% accurate. Or if your material is part of a bigger scene with lots of different objects and surfaces. In these scenarios, Sampler's AI will work great. And in combination with other regular features where we can grab a single image and create a nice looking material out of it, we have a very nice toolset at our disposal. Adobe still has to fix the noise issues and all the other glitches visible in the materials channels, but even with these issues, we can still get some good materials out of it. All the textures you've seen in the video will be available on my Patreon page, so if you want to further dissect them, you know where to find them. And that's it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.